This is the Gold Newsletter Podcast, your home for investment, economics, and geopolitics. For our publications and archives, go to goldnewsletter.com. Hello, Fergus Hodgson here, and I'm sharing today one of my favorite parts of the podcast, not an interview with any of the speakers, but rather just me chatting with the attendees at the New Orleans Investment Conference. So I asked them, will cryptocurrencies take the place of the US dollar, and if so, when? And you can find a list of these people in sequence on the podcast archive, which is goldnewsletter.com/podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Colin Breckenbridge of Residential Assisted Living Academy. Okay, mate, so the question that I'm asking people is, will cryptocurrencies replace the dollar, and if so, when?
Well, I'm not really sure if it will. I hope that it doesn't, because I think if we do have a cryptocurrency, that it'll be tracked easier than just using a dollar. So if you want governments knowing exactly what you spend money on and what you buy, then maybe you want it, but I wouldn't want that. So
that's maybe a paradox, because as you note, right now many people promote cryptocurrencies because of their anonymity, but that's assuming that no one knows your key or how to get onto it. But if they do know, if someone does know, he can track everything you do. So, but do you have any other concerns, or just the anonymity that's your main concern?
Yeah, I think that's the main concern. I think to assume that anything digital is, you have any type of anonymity is kind of delusional. You know what I mean? Pretty much anything online can be tracked, can be hacked, so yeah, I don't think there's any way that you wouldn't be able to be tracked using cryptocurrency.
But whether you are afraid of it or not, or whether I'm concerned about privacy or not, will that actually have an impact on its rise and use?
Oh, I guess it just depends on how much people know or are aware of how easy it is to track. So I think it might have an impact if people become aware of it. So, yeah.
Thanks so much for your time. This is Chris Rawley, Harvest Returns. Is it just harvestreturns.com? Okay. The question for the attendees is, will cryptocurrencies take the place of the dollar, and if so, when?
I don't believe they will. I agree with some of the speakers here that said that cryptocurrencies are attractive. They are transparent. They're not really crypto. They're transparent because blockchain can be traced. And as soon as the governments figure out how to control cryptocurrency, they'll use it as another way to try to eliminate cash. That said, I think cryptocurrencies are very interesting, and I think that people who are putting money in cryptocurrencies, they need to be careful.
Are you based in Central America? What's your status?
No, we're actually out of Fort Worth, Texas.
Promoting the sustainable income through Central America.
Right, so we work with our partners at Belize Cacao Consortium, and one of the deals that we offer on our online investing platform, Harvest Return, is an ability to invest in the Belize Cacao operation.
And one other perhaps perplexing element of these discussions that I've had here is that even among this very well-educated and investment-oriented audience, so few people really have familiarized themselves with cryptocurrencies, and often they're very critical. Why do you think that is?
I think the technology is a barrier for people to understand it. That's a lot of the people here. That's why we're here, because people want something tangible. Cryptocurrencies, I think they're a little bit faddish now. That doesn't mean they're going to go away. It just means that they're inflated. We're offering agriculture because it's real and it's tangible, and people understand it because they use it in their everyday lives.
Thanks so much for your time.
Hey, thanks a lot, Fergus.
I've got Bryce Bradley here, co-founder of Thunderstruck Resources Limited. Bryce, the question today is, will cryptocurrencies
Tell me these questions in advance? No, seriously? Will cryptocurrencies take the place of the dollar?
Yes.
Yes, I do think that it will. When? I think it's going to be slower than everyone thinks, within the next 5 years.
That seems pretty quick. Why are you so optimistic that cryptocurrencies have the capacity to make that change?
Well, because there's a lot of people at this conference, and many colleagues that I know that want to be able to move their assets and their money offshore safely and without governments watching over them at all times. And I think the governments are going to be very slow to picking up on what cryptocurrency can really do for this exodus. However, they will catch on eventually. As far as I'm concerned, I do believe that's going to happen, and eventually replace all currencies with cryptocurrencies themselves in order to do the exact opposite of what everyone is using for it now, right? That for total and complete control of where we're moving our assets.
Do you own or speculate in cryptocurrencies?
I do not, although I really would like to. The only reason I haven't yet is because I don't have the bandwidth trying to run this little junior mining exploration company to get up to speed on the plethora of different choices that we have, both with the blockchain technologies and the various cryptocurrency companies out there. They're popping up left, right, and center to the point where even these little juniors like ourselves, we've been suggested that we should just ditch what we're doing and go into cryptocurrencies ourselves as a public company. Bankers and entrepreneurs missed out on the internet just for the same reason. It just seems so confusing. It's air, and they can't understand what the potential, where the potential may lie, and how we could get there. I think the same thing is happening here with the cryptocurrencies. I haven't wrapped my head around it entirely at all, and nor do we know which ones are going to stick. Like Netscape, if you had invested and got in early with something like Netscape back in the internet days and got out quickly enough, you would have made some money. But that one didn't survive, and so it's similar here. With new technology, everyone's got to get up the learning curve quickly, and that takes a bit of time. And again, it's more risk. We're already in a really highly speculative game with exploration. So I do think a lot of people that are in the exploration game don't have the bandwidth to add on just another layer of high risk investment on top of it.
And Bryce, just to finish up, do you want to say where you've traveled from and what brings you to the event?
I've traveled from Vancouver, where our office is in Vancouver. Our assets are in Fiji, however, and I've come to the New Orleans Investment Conference because Brian London is a co-founder of our company, Thunderstruck Resources, trading on the Venture Exchange with zinc, copper, and gold assets in Fiji. So we're always gold sponsors here. Over half of our shareholders have traveled from all over the world to this event, and so I always want to make sure we have a good presence.
Do you want to explain to people perhaps not acquainted the Venture Exchange? Is this a Canadian exchange? Where is that?
Yeah, the Venture Exchange is Canadian. There's the full board Toronto Stock Exchange, which is more expensive and usually for larger companies with larger market caps and producers. A lot of the exploration companies are on the Venture Exchange. It's just a much smaller and cheaper exchange based out of Vancouver.
I have with me Mark Shuddy. He's a senior geologist with Golden Predator. What's your answer? Will cryptocurrencies take the place of dollars in circulation?
You know, Fergus, I think that they will. Tough to say. Quite a ways out. But I think with all of the currencies in such bad shape and gold standard doesn't seem like a feasible solution, cryptocurrency makes sense.
Thanks for your time, buddy. Okay. This one here is Mark Kenny of thinkmultifamily.com.
So I can't talk with an accent like you, unfortunately, but I'll actually I have the answer for everybody, actually, and I have no idea, and nobody else does either. Because things change at such a fast pace. We could wake up tomorrow morning and have something completely different, and it'd be completely replace everything we have today.
Have you invested in or used cryptocurrencies?
No, I have not.
But you see maybe you see a problem with the status quo of currencies that we have?
Absolutely. It's worthless.
So we have currencies that are going to worthless, and they're basically stealing out via inflation. But would you like to see an alternative, or are you following with some optimism?
I think we need something different than what we have today for sure. What the right answer is, I don't know, but we need something that's worth more than a piece of paper.
One of the things observations that I have is that even at this event, which is obviously very sharp people here, very informed, they're in the same boat. They're just saying, we don't know, it's too complicated. So if people here don't know, I don't know if anyone else does, you know. So would you want to comment on why maybe even among investors, this is still a very niche topic?
I think a lot of investors haven't researched it enough to really understand it, and it just seems foreign to them. And if you don't really know enough about it, you're not going to really have much info
Why have they not invested in it or even researched it? Because, as you know, the gains have been through the roof. It's insane.
It's insane for sure, and that probably scares people as well, because what's going to happen keeps going up and up, then something might happen. And I think it's until an event happens, people are like busy doing their lives, and they're not worried about an event happening until it actually happens, and then after the fact, then they start taking action, which is too late.
Okay, so I guess you would just say that people are seeking security, and maybe they see this as not secure yet, at least.
I'd say whether it's secure or not, I think it's more of a mystery to a lot of people, and they don't really know what it's going to actually do. Like, you wake up tomorrow and it'd be worth, a penny.
We got that one. Thanks so much, guys. So Rachel Jensen, she's with the Belize Advantage, and she told me that she does live in Belize, and also that her organization accepts Bitcoin. So I'm getting very optimistic now. So the question is, will cryptocurrencies replace the dollar, and if so, when?
Perhaps. I think it's going to be a little bit of time before average folks get on board with that. I think right now there's the big discrepancy between who's educated in cryptocurrency and what the average consumer knows. And in order for everybody to get on board with it, you need the average consumer, as much as they don't understand, to understand the product in order to fully engage in it. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's actually one thing I've noticed. Obviously, I've been interviewing people here, and most people are saying, I don't know anything about it. And we're in an audience of investment specialists. So how do you explain that?
It just takes a lot of education. But I'll tell you something that's really interesting, Fergus. So we're here in New Orleans. I spend a lot of time here in New Orleans, and I was at this cafe over on Magazine Street. I'm not sure if you're familiar where that is, but there's this little cafe there called Cafe Luna. It's a mom and pop type place, and they have a Bitcoin machine, like an ATM, in the cafe. So I went up to the barista and I asked him, how does this work? What does the transaction look like? He goes, well, you can buy the Bitcoin here at the ATM, and the problem is not going to be buying it, it's going to be using it, because a lot of the places don't yet accept Bitcoin. So it's interesting. I think that there certainly is progress. I think that it's going to become more mainstream at some point. When, I have no idea. But you were right when you said that our company, Belize Advantage, is the name of the organization, but the real estate side of that is Grand Bayman. Parent company is ECI Development, and our ECI Development company that's throughout Latin America does accept Bitcoin in exchange for real estate property.
That is an important point because I personally use Bitcoin, right, to make payments. But why did you make that switch? Was there demand from customers that they wanted to use it?
Yeah, they did, and it was interesting. It kind of threw us for a loop, and to be honest with you, there's still a few kinks that we're working out behind the actual exchange of the Bitcoin in exchange for a piece of property, and we're working in Latin America, right, where this is a very new phenomenon there, if anything, and you're in Latin America yourself, so you probably understand that a lot of people there are still trying to get the hang of it. I see you nodding your head, shaking your head a little bit.
No. Well, so I think one of the predicaments is just that, first, in a place like Guatemala, where I am based, at least half the population are not on the internet. So one of the vulnerabilities of these cryptocurrencies is that they require a connection. That's basically, if without that, you can't pass go. The one advantage, though, and this is where perhaps it relates to your company, international payments. The delays and costs of payments across countries are just outrageous.
Yeah, they're higher, of course, especially when you're used to doing domestic transfers. But I think that a lot of folks who are doing business overseas understand that there is an international price to pay for that. And being diversified is worth everything, right? Being diversified geographically and, of course, in currencies as well. You mitigate your risk when you're diverse, and that doesn't just mean in asset classes, but also throughout the world, and, of course, what your currency is held in.
Well, you've come from Belize, and you said you spent some time here in New Orleans as well. Do you want to just comment quickly on what brought you to the conference, to the event?
Sure. So the group I mentioned I'm with is Belize Advantage. We've been coming to this event for about 5-6 years now. And 5-6 years ago, it was a different group here, right? It was more mining, more gold, and Belize just stood alone. Why are you here is the question that I got asked quite a bit. And we're finding that more and more folks are looking for international investments. They're looking for alternative investments. They're done with the stock market. They're done with whatever their financial advisor says. They want to be diversified throughout the world. world. And Belize is a really good first step to take for people who are looking to go internationally, right? English is the official language. It's close to North America, so it's easy for people to get to. And the options and opportunities there are still affordable for people to get into. So Belize is a really attractive place. It's tropical, beautiful Caribbean waters too, so it's a good place to vacation to at least as well.
Why don't you drop your website so we know where to go?
Sure, it's grandbaymen.com, GrandBaymen.com. Mention Fergus's name so we know where you came from as well.
Okay, yeah, well, you can just say the Gold Newsletter Podcast. That's the way to go. Man, Rachel, you're the best. You're my favorite guest so far.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Fergus. This was great.
We have now a special guest, Blake London, the son of the chief executive, and he's here walking or attending the event. Blake, will cryptocurrencies or a cryptocurrency replace the dollar, and if so, when?
I don't know about replace the dollar, but it's definitely, it's all up in the air right now. I think nobody really knows enough about it, about how a transition to that would really work. I don't think, and really it's more speculative than anything, but it's too big of a deal to ignore at this point. It could happen. I'm not sure if it will, but I mean it's definitely profitable right now if you got in early. But I'm not sure if the transition will be able to happen or if it'll stay like that.
I know that you live here, well, in Metairie, near New Orleans, and you go to Tulane University studying finance. Are the finance academics, at least at Tulane, paying attention to cryptocurrencies?
Yeah. Not. They're not too concentrated on it, I would think. But like I said, it's. I think that they say that it's something that you can work into a portfolio of other investments, and nobody's really banking on it being the solution or the currency or anything. But it's definitely there, and you can add it to your portfolio, and as long as you diversify it enough and limit the risk that is inherent with something like that, especially with how you really don't know what's going to happen with it, anything about it. So obviously it's risky to invest in, but they say it's just like any other risky investment. You can work it in, and as long as you diversify that risk around.
And I know your father is very interested in the promise of a gold-backed cryptocurrency or getting gold into the mix. Of course, there are some gold-backed cryptocurrencies, although not necessarily widely used. Do you own any cryptocurrencies, and are you planning to get into it?
I do not currently, but maybe in the future. I don't know if I could ever afford to buy any Bitcoin with the rate it's going, but if I have an opportunity to, and it depends on. I had to look into each individual one more, but it's possible in the future.
Do you have any comments to add to your assessment of the event, how it's evolving? Are you pleased with what you see?
Yeah, I've been coming back, just walking around, being shown around every year, and it definitely seems to be getting bigger. I mean, especially the speeches today were so very lively. Everybody was very engaged, and I feel like that keeps increasing. Everybody gets more involved, and everybody gets more into it every year, I feel like, and it's just every year I feel like it becomes a bigger and better event.
Well, I'll just add too, mate, that I came here 7 years ago for the first time, and one of the best elements is the community element. As you said, people are really engaging with the speakers. As far as I know, Tucker Carlson, the headliner for this year's event, did not really come out and chat like Crowdhammer did. But I mean, anyway, he got a full house, and yesterday the Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, was walking around, and he was getting plenty of interaction, so he was more involved. Yeah, so you've been here through the years. Okay, mate. Well, thanks so much for your time. And is there any way people should follow you? Are you on Twitter? Where can people follow you?
I am on Twitter. Not sure my handle, actually. It's just Blake London is the name, or on Facebook, too.
Okay, well, you follow Blake. He is the son of Brian London, who's been working on this for decades. And I hope that the New Orleans Conference and Gold Newsletter continue for many years to come. Cheers, man.